You are 40. This morning you did not set an alarm. You walk to the kitchen. You make coffee. You sit at the window. Your phone buzzes once. $312 paid to you while you were sleeping. Not from a job, not from a client. From money you fed for 16 years while everyone told you to spend it. You do the math without trying anymore. It's automatic now. $312 a day means your number finally crossed $1,140,000. The number you wrote on a piece of paper at 24 and never told anyone about. You are not rich in the way people picture rich. You are free in a way almost nobody around you understands yet. Rewind. You are 24. You have a job. Entry level, $52,000 a year. A desk with your name spelled wrong on the plastic sign. You do the math on a napkin at lunch one day, out of boredom more than ambition. If you invest $600 a month starting now and never stop, by 40 the number could be enormous. You don't believe the napkin. Nobody your age believes a napkin. But you fold it anyway and put it in your wallet where it stays for the next 2 years, softening at the creases. You open a brokerage account that weekend. You buy a boring index fund, the kind with a ticker nobody at a party has ever mentioned. You automate $600 out of every paycheck before you see it, not because you're disciplined, because you know if you see it, you'll spend it. You tell no one. Your roommate asks why you're still driving the same Civic with 140,000 miles on it. You say you like it. You don't say why. Your roommate buys a motorcycle that same month. Financed, 18% interest, a payment he calls basically nothing, 3 separate times in one conversation, which is usually a sign it's not nothing. He rides it to the grocery store, to work, to places a bicycle could reach. You watch him check the payoff calculator on his phone one night, when he thinks you're asleep. You don't say anything. You go back to your napkin math instead, the one folded in your wallet, and you run the numbers again just to feel them settle. Level 1. $25,000. You are 26. Your account crosses $25,000 on a Tuesday you don't notice until 3 days later. It pays you $80 a month in dividends. $80 covers your phone bill with a little left over. Your coworker leases a new Jeep that month. He parks it right by the entrance and takes a photo. You watch it happen from your desk and feel nothing you can name. Not envy exactly. Something quieter. You reinvest the $80 instead of spending it. You don't know it yet, but that Jeep will cost him more than the car ever did. He asks you at lunch why you never upgrade anything. Your phone, your car, your clothes. He's not being cruel. He's genuinely confused. The way people are confused by a choice they've never considered making. You tell him you're saving for a house someday. It's not a lie. It's just not the whole truth. He nods, satisfied, and goes back to showing you photos of the Jeep's interior. You go back to your sandwich. Somewhere underneath the table, in your head, you're already thinking about next month's deposit. Level 2. $75,000. You are 28. Your friend group starts talking about buying places. Everyone's parents helped with a down payment except yours. You sit at a dinner where 3 people compare mortgage rates and you say nothing because you have no house to compare. Someone asks what you're doing with your money instead. You say you're saving. They nod the way people nod at an answer they've already stopped listening to. That night you check your account. $75,000. Dividends now pay $230 a month. Enough for groceries for 2. Nobody at that dinner would believe it if you told them. You don't tell them. Later that same dinner, someone mentions a friend who bought a place with nothing down through some program nobody fully understands, and everyone gets excited about the idea of debt disguised as opportunity. You ask one question, quietly, about the interest rate over 30 years. Nobody has an answer. The conversation moves on without you, the way conversations about money always seem to move on, right when the real math shows up. You pay for your half of the bill and drive home in the same car you drove there in. You don't mind. You've stopped minding a while ago. Level 3. $150,000. You are 31. A recruiter calls with an offer. More money. More hours. A title that would look good at a dinner like that one. You take a week to think about it. You run the number instead of the ego. The extra salary buys you a nicer apartment. It does not buy you back the 10 hours a week the job would take. Hours you currently spend doing nothing that looks like anything. Which is exactly the point. You turn it down. Your manager looks at you like you said something in a language he doesn't speak. Your dividends now pay $470 a month. Nobody claps. You don't know it yet, but that decision alone will save you 4 years. Level 4. $250,000. You are 33. Marcus from your old building finds a stock paying 14% and texts you a screenshot at midnight. He says he's putting in $20,000. You pull the chart. The price has fallen 60% in 2 years. The yield is only that high because the company is bleeding out and the payout hasn't caught up to the collapse yet. You tell him to slow down. He sends a laughing emoji and buys it anyway. 4 months later, the dividend gets cut in half, and the stock drops another 25%. He stops posting about it. You keep buying the same boring fund, the same $600, the same nothing to see here Tuesday. Your dividends now cover your electric bill and your internet, with room left over. The rule at this level is simple. If the number looks too good, the company underneath it is usually already dying. Marcus messages you again a year later. A different stock this time. A different promise. A different midnight screenshot. You don't open the chart this time. You already know what you'll find. You wish him luck and go back to what you were doing, which is nothing, which is the entire strategy. Being boring on purpose has started to feel less like a limitation and more like a decision you keep making on purpose, over and over, long after it stopped being difficult. Level 5. $400,000. You are 35. This is the year it gets hard, not because the plan breaks, because the world around you looks like it's winning, while you look like you're standing still. Your sister buys a second property. Your old coworker posts from Portugal. Your parents ask, gently, carefully, if you're doing okay financially, because from the outside your life hasn't changed in 11 years. Same car, same one bedroom, same boring fund. You almost tell them the number. You don't. Some things you protect by keeping them quiet. That night you open the calendar on your wall, the one with the date circled since you were 24. 5 years left. It has never felt farther away than it does tonight. Your mother calls the next weekend. She doesn't ask directly. She circles it, the way mothers do, asking if you're happy, if you're lonely, if you've thought about settling down somewhere nicer. You know what she's really asking. You almost tell her the number just to make the worry stop. You don't. You tell her you're happy, which is also true, just not in the way she means it. She says okay in a voice that isn't fully convinced. You hang up and sit in the quiet for a minute before opening your laptop to check the account you promised yourself you'd stop checking so often. Level 6. $600,000. You are 37. The market drops 22% in 6 weeks. You watch the number on your screen fall by more than your first 3 years of salary combined. Your hands don't shake, but your certainty does. You do not sell. You do not check the account for 11 straight days, because checking it will only make the fear louder. On day 12 you look. The dividends still paid out that month, same as always, because the companies didn't stop running just because the price panicked. You realize something nobody tells you at 24. The plan was never about the number going up in a straight line. It was about not needing to look at it every day. You keep buying. Same $600, same Tuesday. A coworker 2 desks over sells everything during those 6 weeks, locks in the loss, moves it all to cash, and tells anyone who will listen that the market is rigged and nobody should trust it. You don't argue with him. You've learned there's no version of that conversation that ends well. 6 months later, the market recovers everything it lost and adds more on top. He never buys back in. He tells people he got out in time. You say nothing. You keep contributing $600 every 2 weeks the way you have for 13 straight years, through every headline that told you to stop. Level 7. $850,000. You are 38. Your dividends now pay $2,300 a month, more than your rent. You could technically stop working right now and simply not replace the income you're spending. You don't quit, not yet. You just notice, for the first time, that your job has become optional rather than required. And that shift changes how every meeting feels, how every bad boss's comment lands, how every Sunday night dread arrives softer than it used to. You don't tell your manager any of this. You just work a little differently, a little lighter, like a man who knows something the room doesn't. Your manager notices anyway, in the small ways people notice things they can't name. He asks if everything's okay. You say everything's fine, and it is, just not for reasons he'd understand from where he's standing. You still show up on time. You still do the work well. You just no longer need any of it. And needing is the thing that used to make every part of it feel heavier than it actually was. Level 8. $1,050,000. You are 39. You cross 7 figures on a random Thursday while sitting in traffic, and you don't find out until that night because you weren't checking. The napkin from 16 years ago is still in a drawer somewhere. The ink faded, the numbers on it laughably small compared to where you actually landed. You take it out and read it once. Then you put it back. You don't know it yet, but the version of you that wrote that napkin would not recognize the version of you reading it tonight, and that gap is the entire point of the last 15 years. Your old roommate reaches out that same month, out of nowhere, asking to catch up over coffee. He tells you the motorcycle is long gone, sold at a loss to cover a bill he doesn't specify. He asks, carefully, almost embarrassed to ask, what you've been doing all these years, because you never seem stressed the way everyone else does. You think about the napkin. You think about the 13 years of $600 nobody saw. You tell him the truth, that you just kept doing the boring thing longer than felt reasonable. He laughs like it's a joke. You don't correct him. Some things only make sense from the other side of them. You are 40. This morning you did not set an alarm. You sit at the window with your coffee and your phone buzzes once. $312. Paid to you while you were sleeping. The number crossed $1,140,000 last week, and you almost didn't notice. The same way you almost didn't notice the $25,000, or the $75,000, or any of the numbers in between, because none of them ever announced themselves. They just quietly became true while you kept doing the same boring thing on the same boring Tuesday for 16 years straight. You open your laptop, you write one email to your manager, 4 sentences, you read it twice, you hit send. You do not feel triumphant. You feel the way you felt at 24, folding a napkin into your wallet, calm, certain, unbothered by whether anyone else understands it yet. Somewhere right now, someone is 24, doing math on a napkin at lunch, not believing the number at the bottom of it. They will fold it up anyway. They will tell no one. They have no idea that the version of them at 40 is already waiting on the other side of every boring Tuesday between now and then, if they just keep making the deposit. The question was never how much money you'd need. The question was whether you could stay quiet long enough for the number to become true. Maybe you're 24 right now with a napkin in your pocket. Maybe you're 33, watching someone else's stock crater and wondering if yours is next. Maybe you already know exactly which Tuesday you stopped believing the math would work. Either way, the number doesn't care if you believe it. It only cares if you keep showing up. If you want to see what the number actually looks like at every stop along the way, that's next.